We often expect the people who raise us to articulate their pride and speak their affection. But for a specific generation, emotion was something rarely translated into words. Instead, they expressed themselves through a silent, practical dialect, one where a family's stability was the primary metric of a parent's love. Arav's grandfather, Dadaji, was a mechanic who lived entirely within that silence. To his family, he was a ghost in his own house, leaving behind a workshop filled with dust and rusted tools that appeared on the surface to be worthless. Resentment grows easily in that kind of quiet. Arav's father spent 50 years assuming he was merely an afterthought to a man who seemed to prefer the company of engines to his own family. Clearing out that abandoned workshop was supposed to be a final, mundane chore. Arav spent the afternoon sorting through the debris of a man he barely knew, eager to finish the task and move on. But as he dragged a push broom across the floor, the bristles caught on a seam in the wood. Beneath the heavy workbench, one of the thick oak floorboards sat slightly higher than the rest, missing its iron nails. He wedged a pry bar into the gap and lifted. Tucked into the dark cavity below was a heavy, rusted iron lockbox, wrapped tightly in an old shop rag. Dadaji had lived a remarkably routine life, defined by his presence at the garage and his silence at home. The existence of a hidden box suggested there was a layer to his history that he never felt comfortable sharing in the light. A secret hidden beneath floorboards for 50 years suggests that the man his family saw every day was only a partial truth. Arav managed to force the rusted lock open. Inside, he found a collection of items that provided a framework for understanding his grandfather's decades of silence. Resting on top was a bundle of letters Dadaji had written to Arav's father. The first one was dated the day his father was born. In his shaky handwriting, the old mechanic wrote about looking at his own massive, grease-stained hands. He was terrified that his physical roughness would somehow break his fragile newborn son. He admitted he didn't know how to offer soft comfort or speak with grace, so he made a vow. He would use his hands to build a secure future for the boy, even if he could never find the words to explain why. This dynamic shows how silence functioned as a primary input. Instead of a dead end, it branched out into tangible outputs of security and protection. For his generation, physical labor was the structural bridge from an inability to speak to a place of deep affection. Beneath the letters lay the physical evidence of that labor, a stack of yellowed hospital receipts from 30 years ago. The dates matched the exact months Arav's father had been hospitalized after a severe childhood accident, a crisis that had nearly bankrupted the family. Arav's father always remembered his own childhood as a time when Dadaji was perpetually exhausted, irritable, and almost never present. The receipts tell a different story, a 3-year block of dual-income labor perfectly matching the debt repayment. By shifting the stress burden entirely onto himself, he chose to be seen as an absent father rather than let his family feel the terror of debt. At the very bottom of the box was a silver pocket watch. It was a replica of a watch his son had lost and grieved for as a teenager, something Dadaji had spent years quietly tracking down. The distance the family felt wasn't a sign of indifference, it was the mechanism of his protection. His absence was the price he paid to ensure their stability. Arav brought the box to his father. He watched his father's trembling hands unfold the letters, finally seeing the silver watch he thought was lost. Years of frustration evaporated in a matter of minutes. He finally received the sentiment his father had never known how to put into a conversation. We often overlook invisible labor because it doesn't announce itself. But secret sacrifice is a profound language of devotion, used by those who prioritize our safety over their own reputation. It invites us to look at the seemingly distant people in our own lives with more curiosity. We have to ask what weights they might be carrying in the dark, so that we can walk in the light. When we learn to recognize the dialect of sacrifice, the truth becomes clear. They haven't been silent. They have been telling us they love us through everything they do.